Welcome back to Gold Derby. We are here to talk about what our current nominations are for the 2023 Emmy Awards winners. Voting actually starts for the final round on August 17th and goes until August 28th. So we have a few days left before voting begins. I'm Marcus James Dixon. I'm here with Daniel Montgomery, Denton Davidson, and Ray Richmond. And let's start right away with comedy series. We're going to talk about the comedy races, the drama, and the limited movies in this slugfest. So comedy series at Gold Derby, the predicted winner is Ted Lasso, but it's quite close between that and The Bear in number 2. Is anyone actually going out on the limb for The Bear? Okay, Ray, tell us why.
Um, I think shows that are actually dramas competing as comedies have an advantage, maybe even an unfair advantage, just because they're strong, they're more powerful by their nature. There is very almost no comedy in The Bear, and I feel like people are going to be judging it on season 2 instead of season 1, which is arguably even stronger than season 1. And it's still incredible. They came coming out in June when they did was incredibly smart because it got all kinds of viral water cooler talk. And, I think I think people are also uncertain of what's going on with Ted Lasso. Is it really they're being so cagey about it. Is it its last season? Is it not? You know, they haven't talked about coming back yet, but they haven't had to because of the strikes. I feel like the Bear is going to be incredibly strong in all through the categories this year.
And
I-
Daniel,
So,
why?
I had just want to comment because Ray, we've seen historically that funny shows win best comedy. So, do you think there's going to be a change of tide with this year?
I do. I do. I know Barry has been similarly, far more dramatic than comedic and hasn't ever won. But I feel like people are just going to be voting. It's going to be a change because people are going to be voting for the Bear no matter what category it's in. They
Okay.
could call it a musical and or they could call it a documentary. They'd still be voting for it. So, and I feel like I could be wrong, that people are sort of over Ted Lasso in terms of honoring it right now.
I don't know if you're wrong or right. I think those are the two. I really am. I'm not considering Abbott anymore or
No.
Maisel Only Murders or Jury Duty or Barry or Wednesday. I think it's Ted Lasso or The Bear. And Daniel, why are you going with Ted Lasso?
It's the biggest mea culpa for me. Going into the nominations, I'm like, it's Abbott, it's Abbott, it's Abbott. Abbott's gonna expand. It's gonna be huge. I thought it was gonna get like 15 to 20 nominations or something like that. It got 8. It missed writing, and I was just the most mercenary. I'm just like, okay, Abbott, I'm done with you. And so, yeah, I agree. It's between Ted Lasso and The Bear. Um, and the thing about Ted Lasso is that I expected enthusiasm to wane for the show. And what happened, it got more nominations than it's ever gotten before, 21. And no other comedy comes close, even though The Bear got like, 13, which is impressive, but it's not even in the ballpark of Ted Lasso in terms of the nominations count. So I really feel like Ted Lasso is the show to beat. I'm not sure that it's gonna really hurt it. The confusion about whether it's coming back or not. I think whether it comes back or not, it will be a 3-time Emmy winner coming out of whenever these awards happen to be handed out.
And Denton, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it got so many more nominations than any other comedy. That's what's like standing out so much for me. And on top of the fact that I underestimated it last year, and I just don't want to make that mistake again. What's interesting in our overall odds is that Ted Lasso's leading comedy series, but it has no one in Best Actress. Jeremy Allen White leads actor, Ayo Edebiri leads supporting actress, and Tyler James Williams supporting actor, The Bear directing, The Bear writing. So we have it leading for comedy series and then winning nothing else. That's not going to happen. So like someone's wrong somewhere, something's going to break in our odds. And I don't know which direction it's going to break, and that's sort of the game that we're all playing this year.
I think
Yeah,
Ted is going to do real well below the line, but I don't think for the big. I don't think we're seeing Brett Goldstein again winning. I don't think, and I don't think we're seeing Jason winning again.
I
But
think
I guess we still got to get to those categories.
Ted Lasso for me is it's a category I'm not even considering. You know, I have Ted Lasso at number one, and that's basically because of what all of you guys had said. I mean, there's only 4 shows this year that got more than 20 nominations, and only one of those is a comedy, and that's Ted Lasso. They didn't just like this show, they loved this show. And yeah, a lot of the critics kind of fell off of Ted Lasso this year, but that didn't hurt Game of Thrones' final season. It still dominated. It got more nominations than anything. It still won more awards than anything, and that's going to happen with Ted Lasso. And I also have, switching to actor, I have Jason winning for the 3rd time. I went with Bill Hader last year, stupidly. Of course, they're going to go with Jason. He's the funny one. I said that last year after he won. Well, of course they're going to go with him. And this year, it's him versus Bill Hader again, and someone else that's not funny, Jeremy Allen White. I think the 2 non-funny guys are going to cancel each other out. Jason's got this 3 for 3. Daniel, what did you shake your head at me? No shaking.
I did, just because you're wrong. No, we've talked about how, do serious shows have an advantage or a disadvantage in comedy categories? Historically, they've had a disadvantage in comedy categories, like the last dramedy that won Best Comedy Series, and the only one that won Best Comedy Series was Ally McBeal, and that's over 2 decades ago. That makes me feel old. But
arguably, The Wonder Years won too, and that was a dramedy also.
True. But that was, at least that was still like a half-hour show that, Ally McBeal was like the full hour legal kind of dramedy, and that's the last time we saw something with, major dramatic elements win Best Comedy Series. But Best Actor, we saw Jeffrey Tambor win for a largely dramatic performance in Transparent twice. Bill Hader won twice for a largely dramatic performance in Barry. Donald Glover, although I do think Atlanta is more of a comedy because it goes absurd in ways, but still, that's not like a belly laugh, haha, funny kind of show. It's more of an absurd, observational kind of show. Donald Glover won. So I don't think dramatic performances have a different disadvantage here, and I feel like the difference between Jeremy Allen White and Bill Hader is that Bill Hader had kind of been there, done that by the time he came back last year. Jeremy Allen White is brand new. It's the hot new show. If it's even close to winning Best Comedy Series, which it's probably one of those top 2. I think Jeremy Allen White wins either way.
And Ray?
Yeah, I think I'm going with Jeremy. I just think there's been so much heat around him. That he and going into season 2 just as well. Although his season 1 performance arguably was better than his season 2. They really spread the wealth around a lot more for season 2. And again, I know we're not even that isn't even among the considerations, season 2, but we all know that people vote the thing they watch most recently, even if they're supposed to be watching the thing that they watched a year ago. So and basing it on that. Yeah, I think it's Jeremy. Jason could win, and you're right. Jason's won twice. Hader's won twice. You know that Hader has 28 Emmy nominations? It's like, holy moly. The guy, because he was a producer on South Park, he documentary now, SNL. The guy's been everywhere, and he looks like he's 30. I mean, I know he's considerably older than that, but the man is just, kind of an Emmy machine. So if there's going to be an upset in this category, I think it could be Hader again. But I'm going with Jeremy.
And Denton, what about you?
I have Jeremy right now as well. He won the SAG award. He's been, the hottest among these nominees in the recent year, but I'm not confident in it like as much as Daniel is. I think Jason could definitely win. And we know that there's been rumors that Ted Lasso will not return, but we know for a fact Jason will not return, whether the show comes back in some form or not. So it is his farewell, and he submitted that episode, So Long Farewell. So there could be a lot of emotion tied to that. And this is his swan song, and he is the two-time defending champion, so he's hard to just write off. I'm very torn about this category because my brain is saying Jeremy Allen White, but I feel like Jason could pull this off again.
Even if the voters don't watch the episodes, which they're supposed to do, they can just look and see the episode titles. And you're right, So Long Farewell, such a good episode title for him. So if they're lazy, I mean, he's going to be helped out by that.
And they're lazy.
Tell that to Steve Carell.
What was his title?
Goodbye, Michael, I believe was his.
Yeah, that was a good one. I love how Ryan Murphy named that episode of Feud the Oscar episode. Like, I'll always remember that. So let's move over to comedy actress, and I feel like this is one we're maybe all agreeing. Or do we all think Quinta Brunson has this with James Smart out of the race? Okay, so who do you have, Ray?
I actually, this is my crazy category. I have Quinta fourth.
Hold on, I have to laugh out loud. That's ridiculous.
Yes. I have her fourth. Well, she's already won. I mean, I know everybody loves her in that show. And
she went for writing, though. That's different.
She went for writing. I think the show has lost, as we saw, without the writing nomination. After a year after she won for writing, for some reason, we all thought it was, like Daniel said, we all thought it was going to get 18 to 20 nominations, and it got considerably less than that. I think Christina Applegate, sentiment and, and her MS and falling out of acting, I think that's going to really come to play here. We talk about farewells. This is really a human being's farewell. So I really think Christina Applegate for Dead to Me has got to be. I think Rachel Brosnahan, really came on in this last season of Mrs. Maisel and has a shot. But I keep contradicting myself. I think if there's going to be a major upset in this category, even more than Christina, it could be Natasha Lyonne. Just because everyone loves her. She's gotten 5 nominations, never won yet. Not for that show, obviously, just the first one for Poker Face. But everybody considers her, kind of an actor's actor, and I feel like she could slip in the back door.
And Denton, do you think Quinta has this?
I think Quinta, but I'm not confident about this either. I mean, I agree with Ray that Abbott did not have the year that it needed, and she didn't win Best Actress before it. I mean, she won for writing. So we don't know that she's going to take this category. It's not a slam dunk. I think Natasha's great, but I also, I discounted Wednesday going into nominations, and I'm not discounting it, or Jenna Ortega. I mean, she is the lead of Wednesday. That show could have tanked without the right performance. And I've been watching some of the episodes, interviewing their craftspeople, and just like the whole Goo Goo Muck dance and like so many viral moments. Millions and millions of people watch this show. It is the most popular show of these. I mean, that's not a question. So I wouldn't count her out. I have Quinta up there. Rachel could come back and win for the final season of Mrs. Maisel, but I don't see that happening. I agree with Ray about Christina. I think this is a really close race, and it's one of the most exciting. And I like when Ray makes like crazy statements, because I think so many times we get like wrapped up in the odds, and we sort of create these narratives that we can't break out of, and then we see that we're wrong, and then Ray beat us all at what was it, the
jury duty,
last year's Emmys.
2 words, jury duty.
Exactly. So I like going off the beaten path, because these Emmys, I mean, the Emmys always have some good shockers.
Daniel.
Yeah, I have Quinta, but this I'm not confident at all. I think that everyone here is just super lucky that Jean Smart is not eligible this year, because just the way this category lined up, none of them would have beaten another Jean Smart year this year. But I've got Quinta out front, sort of by default. Abbott is liked by the actors branch of the Television Academy more than any other branch. It did maintain all of its nominations from last year in acting, at least. And Quinta was probably the runner-up to Jean Smart last year. But my number 2 is Jenna Ortega. Like, again, the hot new show. She that show on her shoulders. She got that into Best Comedy Series. It's got more nominations, I think, than any other show nominated in this category, except maybe Maisel. Might be close between those two shows in terms of nomination count.
I have the list here. Maisel has 14 and Wednesday has 12. And
okay,
then,
so it's pretty close.
And then Abbott has 8.
Yeah, so, and I don't see Maisel coming back, even though a lot of people really loved this last season. It is very rare for an actor to have won and then kind of, lost a bunch and then come back to win again. So I think it would have taken something even more extraordinary than the final season of Maisel to bring Rosanahan back. But even then, I've still got her ranked 3rd. So it's not like out of the question. I've got Applegate 4th. I agree with Ray about the sentiment for her, although sometimes the Emmy voters are cruel. Like a lot of times, an actor could have died and they won't get an Emmy. So we'll see what happens here. Although, actors who have passed away can't be there to accept the Emmy. So maybe they'll want to see her on stage give a farewell speech, which would actually be probably, whatever the Emmys happen to be, one of the most moving moments of the Emmys if that happens. So yeah, this category is wide open, I think.
And moving over to comedy supporting actor, this is one where I'm kind of going out on my own here. I'm predicting Anthony Carrigan to win, and he's actually in 4th place at Gold Derby. Above him, number 1, we have Tyler James Williams winning, and then Eben Moss-Bachrach in 2nd, and Brett Goldstein in 3rd. Does anyone else have Anthony Carrigan? I have a feeling I'm kind of on my own, but I've said before in another Slugfest, when he got that SAG Award nomination out of nowhere against Leeds, he's a supporting person. That was hugely impactful to me, and I think he's going to be the next Julia Garner. I think he's going to win on the supporting side for his show. Who do you have, Daniel?
I recently switched to James Marsden.
Yes, I love that prediction.
And I wrote an article about it, just sort of speculating about it. And I did one of those stupid things that I do, is that I made the case for it in my article, and then I convinced myself that it was true. So we'll see if that comes to pass. But it's a different performance than anyone else in this category is giving. It's a different degree of difficulty because he's playing a version of himself, and he has to pull the wool over the eyes of the person who, is sort of at the center of this, trial hoax. No one else has to give a performance that convincing. Everyone else can have another take if they miss it. So it's a degree of difficulty thing. I think Jury Duty getting into Best Comedy Series, sort of like Jenna Ortega for Best for Wednesday. I feel like a lot of it's on Marsden's shoulders, the passion for the show. So I think if it's not him, it's Goldstein, but Goldstein has a co-star problem. Anthony Carrigan has a co-star problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tyler James Williams, I think he would have been the front runner if Abbott had done better, but I don't see it happening. I think Eben is a possibility. This is the most wide open category. I think literally this category, no offense to Henry Winkler, I could see any of these actors winning except maybe Henry Winkler. And Henry Winkler is a previous winner of this category for this role. So even then,
I think
this might be a 7-way race.
I agree with everything you said. I have Henry down in 7th, but any other year, Henry, I mean, what he did this season was absolutely phenomenal. It's just this category is stacked. And I did move James Marsden up to 2nd place this morning. So I'm with you there. Denton, who do you have winning this one?
I have Brett Goldstein. And I don't know if I'm going to keep him there. I might move James Marsden up. I have James in 2nd. The reason I have Brett Goldstein winning is because I don't have Jason Sudeikis winning. And I just don't feel like it's going to win Comedy Series without some other big award. And he's already won twice in a row. So they obviously like him. I just don't see it happening for Tyler James Williams. That's just my personal take. And I'm really tempted to move James Marsden up. Speaking of just Jury Duty in general, it's last in our odds for Comedy Series. I think that's way off base.
Yeah, that's not right.
It's top 4. People need to reconsider what they're predicting for Best Comedy Series, because there's no way that it's in last place.
Yeah, considering that it got in for writing, given the nature of that show,
yeah.
There's not a lot of
room
nominated
for writing. and there's just not a lot of room for below the line nominations for a show like that. So you can't totally take the nomination count for jury duty into consideration when thinking of its possible wins. But yeah, I think it's James Marsden's up there. I might switch, I might switch.
I'm thinking of switching to him. Ray?
Yeah, I'm Mr. Jury Duty. This was my Andrea Riseborough, Hail Mary pick of the year, and it turned. But now I only, until this conversation, I've had Marsden in fourth, and I'm reconsidering now. That said, I think, Marcus, you are the only person in the world that is picking Anthony Kerrigan. However, he not that he wouldn't deserve it. He's so good. This category is stacked. I agree. I mean, you could make a case for 5 or 6 of them. And I think I have Tyler on top, just because I feel like somebody from Abbott is going to win. I feel like it's him. I think there's a lot of respect and love for him. Whereas a lot of the ladies may cancel each other out, even after Cheryl Lee Ralph won last year. But I think Eben is my number 2, and I think Eben's got maybe the best chance for it would be a semi upset. And that again is based on a lot of the viewing of season 2. He really came into his own in season 2, especially one episode, and people are going to keep that in mind while they're voting this month. So, and I'm not even mentioning Brett Goldstein, the guy who's won 2 in a row. So, boy, this isn't just flip a coin. This is flip 5 coins you just did. It's hard to know who to pick here. I'm picking Tyler, but I'm going to probably change it an hour after we're done here.
If I was an Emmy voter who absolutely loved Ted Lasso, I would go with Phil Dunster here. Phil gave the better performance of the 2 this season, and I just don't know how many other voters see it that way.
But you're right also about Marsden. You're right. Sorry to interrupt. You're right about Marsden. He had to stay in Daniel. He had to stay in character for 3 weeks. Instead of one take and then you get to go to your dressing room. The man didn't have a break for 3 weeks. So if you take that into consideration, he should win hands down.
And he's a movie star here. And remember the old days of the Emmys. Whenever there was a movie star in a category, they would win all the time. Comedy supporting actress, the Gold Derby. Let me go to their odds real fast. We have Io winning for The Bear. We have Cheryl Lee Ralph in second. She won last year. And then third place, we have Hannah Waddingham. I'm actually going with Hannah here. And I could see either of those 3 winning. This is a really, really tough category. It's kind of a flip a 3-sided coin. I think it's going to be one of those 3. But Hannah, again, the goodbye factor for Ted Lasso. I have Ted Lasso winning series and actor and supporting actress, but not supporting actor. So I'm rethinking that. But Denton, let's start with you. Who do you have winning this one?
I have Ao right now. I had Hannah for quite a while. I keep toggling back and forth because I think certain shows have to win something, but it's like the lottery. Like if you're not picking the right numbers, like, okay, like someone from Abbott has to win. Is it going to be Quinta or Tyler? Someone from Ted Lasso has to win. Is it going to be Hannah or Brett or Jason? And I feel like I could just totally tank now that I'm looking at my predictions, because there's so many races that are up and down, and it might be safer to predict a sweep for some show that could come along. So I don't know. Right now I have Ao. I think again it goes into a lot of her work on season 2. She's sort of the breakout star, and she's having a great year. She's even in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming out this weekend. So
all right, Daniel, what do you think in this category?
I've got Io. I've had her since the nominations round when I think she was down in 3rd or 4th. I'm less confident now just because Ted Lasso did so well in the nominations. I didn't think it would do as well in the nominations. So I've got Hannah a very close second. And then I've got Cheryl Lee Ralph in 3rd. I don't think, that was a surprise win for Cheryl Lee Ralph. I'm not sure that signals that she's, someone who continues winning.
And Ray.
I think I'm going with IO as well. I feel like there's a lot of respect for her on this show. You know, she doesn't get to exercise her comedy chops, and she has a lot of improv and comedy in her background. I think if I was going to pick a number two, it would actually be Janelle James, who I think is maybe the best person on that show in unheralded way. I think she's, you know, overdue to be recognized, but it's probably not going to be her. Um, and if I'm going to, you know, the process of elimination, I think it's Io. Um, I don't think Hannah or Juno are going to factor in this time. Alex Borstein could, you know, could she? They love her. She's already won a few times. She could. These supporting actor comedy categories are stacked.
Mhm.
So, but I feel like the beer voters are going to want to honor this show in a lot of ways because it's, even though I know it didn't get nearly as many nominations as Ted Lasso, because it's so bold and different, and I think it makes them look good to honor a show like that.
If I was a voter, Jessica Williams, you would be my pick. I think you're the funniest on that show, and your nomination was, oh, so well deserved. So we have so many categories to get to. Let's jump over to best drama series. And I feel like this is kind of an easy one. Maybe we can go pretty fast. I mean, does anyone not have Succession? The better question is, what do you have in second place? I have The White Lotus in second. I think it's the only one that could possibly upset
Oh wait,
Daniel.
nobody's going. I thought everybody was going for the crown.
2 years ago. Daniel, what do you
Yeah,
think?
Yeah, Succession to win and White Lotus in that runner-up spot. I feel like, you know, and the nominations told us more or less the same. You know, with Succession getting 27 and then White Lotus getting, what was it, 25 or 24. Um,
White
so
Lotus 23 and The Last of Us 24.
oh, Last of Us 24. So, but yeah, it won 10 Emmys last year. It dominated the supporting categories this year, even more than it did last year in Movie Limited. So yeah, I really think that White Lotus is the only thing in within striking distance, and I think it needs longer arms to be within striking distance because I think
Hmm.
Succession's just got this.
Ray.
yeah, it's Succession, and in terms of, yeah, second place White Lotus. Um, I didn't think it was going to do quite as well in the nominations as it did, just because it started out in a whole different category last year. But clearly, voters are madly in love with this show, and you know, Last of Us, yeah, you know, HBO, boy, they sure know how to do drama that gets nominated. Um, one, two, three. It would be great to live in a world where Better Call Saul could pull off an upset in its last
Yes.
season, but I don't see it happening. Yeah, I think it's Succession, White Lotus.
For me, House of the Dragon is the best of these, but I know it's not going to win series. I've accepted that fate. Denton, what about you?
Yeah, it's Succession. And then I have The White Lotus in second. I still think The Last of Us, for as well as it did in nominations, is still a genre and a zombie show. So, and I think there's a lot of underestimation of The White Lotus because it did so well last year, and I don't know how it's going to perform. I think it's going to do a little bit better than our odds say in some of the other categories. So we'll maybe, I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but I think directing and writing, it could be very close. Where Succession has multiple submissions, I think The White Lotus could benefit. People love Mike White. I mean,
Yeah, you know, I was just going to say that, Denton. They adore Mike White,
yeah,
and
and he writes it himself alone, and they know that, and they've talked about it frequently. So,
pretty impressive.
yeah, I think White Lotus could pull off an upset in either directing or writing.
Drama actress Sarah Snook is out front at Gold Derby, and she has been out front ever since she made the move from supporting to lead several months ago. Second place at Gold Derby, we have Melanie Linsky for Yellow Jackets, and Yellow Jackets really underperformed. I think it only got 3 nominations. So for me, this is a category that I'm not really thinking about much. I think Sarah's got it. And does anyone disagree?
I think
No,
this is like
Sarah's got it.
this is the easiest category for me that I'm not even going to think about for the rest of time we're forecasting these.
I do think Kerry Russell is a little bit underestimated. I have her number two. That show is underappreciated and underrated, and she's underrated in general. So in a different year where Sarah Snook didn't put on the performance of her life, I think Kerry would have a shot.
Mm-hmm. And her character also was featured way more in this last season than ever before. So the jump from supporting to lead is very warranted. Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this category broke perfectly for Sarah Snook. The fact that Yellow Jackets underperformed as drastically it did, even losing the Christina Ricci nomination that it had in supporting last year. It just feels, and Bella Ramsey with The Last of Us, I have her ranked second just because of how well The Last of Us did, and particularly with the acting branch. But even then, she's a teenage actor on a zombie show, so I'm not sure if that beats Sarah Snook here.
And for drama actor, which is quite a bit more exciting, we've got the three Succession guys, Kieran, Jeremy, Brian. It is quite possible they could vote split and none of them could win. And if that's the case, Ray, your beloved Better Call Saul could finally win a trophy. Are you predicting it to happen?
No, I'm not. That courageous, I'm not. But I would love, again, yes, love to live in a world where Bob Odenkirk would finally be recognized for Breaking Bad as much as for Better Call Saul. I think it's still, there's going to be vote splitting, but there's going to be so many votes. I feel I'm picking somebody that you guys might have as number three, Jeremy Strong, just because I think he's so good on that show. Of course, they all are. I think the smart money may be on Brian Cox. No, I guess the smart money's on Kieran Culkin. But Brian Cox, maybe, I don't know if, it's hard to know. It's hard to flip a coin here too. Which of those three? Sometimes it comes down to who's popular. And I'm not sure how popular with voters in terms of his persona and how loved he is, Brian Cox is. But I know Jeff Bridges is incredibly popular and beloved, and an Oscar winner. But that's not enough, obviously, in a category like this. Not against Succession. But yeah, I'm going with Jeremy Strong, and I'll probably switch this around 5-6 more times before voting takes place.
So I'm looking at the odds at Gold Derby. Kieran Culkin has more votes than 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 combined. That's how confident our users are that Kieran is winning this. Denton, what do you think?
I have Kieran winning this. I've never predicted him to win for supporting because I never thought that the Television Academy, I just had a feeling they didn't respect him enough, like as an actor, just from growing up a child star and the whole narrative and Macaulay Culkin's brother. And I think he finally has earned that and proven himself and just how great of a actor and performer that he is. I think this will be his year to get that honor. I have Pedro Pascal in second place. I think he had such a great year. He has 3 nominations. So I think the vote splits. If anyone, I think it could help Pedro because The Last of Us did so well. So I have him in second. We're not going to talk about it today, but I think he could win guest comedy actor because I think that's a wide open race over there. So I think I'm hoping Pedro gets something this year because he's had such a great year. And every time I see him, it's just like, how can you not love that guy? He's funny and charming and he's just fun to watch.
And last year, Lee Jung-jae won. He took advantage of the Succession vote split for kind of a genre show. Daniel, who do you have winning this?
I've got Pedro. I had him in the nominations round, and that was before The Last of Us did so much better than I was expecting it to do. And again, it did particularly well in the acting categories. It got both of its leads in, and it basically swept the guest categories. Like it and Succession are the only 2 shows nominated for drama guest acting, period. So the acting branch really likes the show. The actors really love Pedro Pascal. He's nominated 3 times this year, his first 3 Emmy nominations. And the Lee Jung Jae factor from last year, how he beat the Succession actors who split the vote. In all likelihood, I think Last of Us is so strong that Pedro is going to be close enough that I don't think Kieran can afford to lose any support. I have Kieran ranked second. I do think it's, he's going to be the Succession person if a Succession person wins. But it's hard to say. I've got Bob Odenkirk ranked third. Sadly, I don't see that being the thing that happens.
I think Bob had a really good chance last year, and I may have even predicted him at the end. But I mean, his Better Call Saul has not aired for more than a year, I think, at this point. So I mean, a lot of people will be cheering if he wins. And in fact, if we can move on to drama supporting actress, I do have Ray Seahorn winning this. And I realize that's crazy because Jennifer Coolidge, Daniel, are you laughing at me? Jennifer Coolidge
Only
is
slightly.
so far out front. It's not even funny. But what's your reaction?
Honestly, I do think Jennifer Coolidge is vulnerable. But the thing is, Ray Seahorn, as much as fans have loved her, as much as critics have loved her, the Emmy, this is only her second nomination. She was snubbed year after year after year. They were never really that into her performance. So I do think that if Jennifer Coolidge suffers from vote splitting, which is possible, like there's only one Succession actor in here. And how strong Succession is, I would say J. Smith Cameron could be your Tobias Menzies.
100%.
So I've got J. Smith Cameron ranked second. I've got Rhea in third. I do. So I don't think it's impossible because I really think, I don't think any of the other White Lotus actresses had the chance to win besides Jennifer Coolidge. But yeah, I think J. Smith Cameron's the likelier upset.
The reason I switched to Ray is I switched to her after Gold Derby revealed her Emmy episode submission, which I think it's called Waterworks. And that's the one where she's in every scene and she's crying on the bus. It's one of the best episode submissions in Emmy history. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. And the question is, if episodes matter, I mean, she's got it locked up. The question is, do they? I don't know if they do. So I'm thinking
They don't.
this may be a Hope Diction that I'm going to change. And if I do change, I think you hit it on the head, Daniel. J. Smith Cameron could be our surprise winner here. If the voters if maybe they have Jennifer Coolidge fatigue. I don't know. Who else wants to chime in here?
I don't think they have Jennifer Coolidge fatigue. I think people are still underestimating the White Lotus. I'm nervous that it's going to do better than people are thinking. But talking about Ray Seahorn, let's remember Better Call Saul has won 0 Emmys in the entire history of the show.
Yeah, with like 55 nominations or something.
And it's on AMC, and we all know the Emmy voters have 3 channels, and AMC isn't one of them. So it's just, I don't see that happening. I have Jennifer Coolidge winning. I don't have the energy to give more to this race because I think there's so many other ones that are giving me anxiety. So like, I'm not going to start messing with Jennifer Coolidge at this point. I do have J. Smith Cameron in second for what it's worth, and Ray in third, because I agree with Daniel that no one from the White Lotus is going to beat Jennifer Coolidge. We at least know that for sure.
And the only other person we haven't mentioned is
if there was vote splitting, oh my God, there are 5 White Lotus people in that category. It's like, is there even another show in terms of this category? I've never seen that before, where there are 5 from the same show. But yeah, it's Jennifer. Obviously, there isn't going to be votes. I don't think there's going to be anything taken away from her. And they do love her. They, she probably won this year's race based on her acceptance speech last year, which was hilarious. And she started dancing during the playoff music. You got it. How could you not love this woman? And they're going to remember that. I have Ray in second, and I would love to think she's got a shot. But I think Jennifer Coolidge, for as long as she's associated with this show, is never going to lose.
And I mean, this was her last season as Tanya. And, I've been interviewing a lot of the White Lotus behind the scenes nominees, and they all have nothing but praises for her. So I think by the time Emmy Day comes around, I may make a switch in this category.
That may be next March.
Ugh,
Yeah.
Let's
praying
hope
for November.
We'll come back to this after the Oscars.
Drama supporting actor. Gold Derby has Matthew McFadden winning, just like he won last year. Second place is interesting. We have Alexander Skarsgård winning, but again, between first place and second place, it's over 1,700 votes. So I mean, it's basically a tie, a six-way tie for second place, or seven-way tie for seventh place. Who wants to start with this one? Is it Matthews? He's got it locked down.
Yeah, I was going to say this is, boy, if you believe in vote splitting, this is your category, because we got 4 for Succession, 4 for White Lotus. It's a vote splitting nightmare potentially. But I think it's Matthew. He didn't do anything to dissuade me from that view this season, after winning last season. Though I really love Alan Ruck and have him second.
Yeah.
And I would love for him to pull off an upset. It wouldn't be a huge upset, but this is it's so interesting to see, the Emmy voters, boy, are they speaking loud and clear that these are their these are their 2 favorite shows of the year. You don't usually see it that clearly. Usually it's one show and then something really is outdistanced. But they had, what was it? 27 nominations for Succession, 24 for Last of Us, and 23 for White Lotus. You don't see it like that very often. Boom, 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 especially from the same network. But anyway, I think it's Matthew.
Same network, same time slot. The only time Emmy voters are watching television was on Sunday nights at 9 o'clock.
It's true.
I think Matt Smith.
I'm not a big fan of that.
Matt Smith for House of the Dragon was absolutely robbed in this category. Another HBO Sunday night 9 p.m. Who from the White Lotus is the strongest here? Can any of them upset?
People are disagreeing with me because he's last on our odds, but I say Theo James, and I've been saying that.
Oh yeah,
the nominations, and I predicted him to be nominated when he was not. I think it was 100-1 odds against him. He's currently ranked last in the odds. I think he is the most likely from the White Lotus to win. So I'm championing him. I have him in third place. So I think if there's a White Lotus upset, it's going to be for Theo, if anyone.
I think I agree with you. Daniel, what about you?
I think White Lotus doesn't have as clear an option as Succession has. I feel like those 4 White Lotus actors will pull from each other more than any of these Succession actors will pull from Matthew. So I've got Matthew winning this. And my highest ranked White Lotus person is F. Murray Abraham. That's based solely on name recognition and just career reputation.
Yeah.
I think I was just going to say, I feel like Michael Imperioli, if people forget that he's not on The Sopranos, could have some strength.
As a White Lotus fan, I think their storyline was maybe the weakest. And whereas the Theo James, Will Sharp, Aubrey Plaza, Megan Fahey storyline was probably the strongest.
I agree.
Okay, let's move over to limited series. And this is one where at the beginning of the season, Monster was leading, and now it's completely flipped. Beef is way, way, way out front at Gold Derby. Does everyone else have Beef winning Best Limited Series? And who wants to say why?
It's the late breaker. It's the least, it's not dark. It's funny. It was surprising. And it's just so much fun to watch. This is another category that I'm not even going to think twice about moving forward. I think Beef has this in the bag.
I almost switched allegiance back to Monster because I didn't, and I may be alone in this view. I didn't love the last 2 episodes of Beef, where everything kind of went completely off the rails. But I guess off the rails was where it was supposed to go, and everyone loved that. But beautifully acted, incredibly directed, great. It checked off all the boxes. And I still have to believe, I know we've been going through this now for almost a year, that there are going to be a certain percentage of people that don't want to vote for a project that associates with Jeffrey Dahmer. No matter, even though we're not seeing him actually, bump off his victims and eat them, but it's still something that's got to be disturbing for people. And beef is, there's no consequence to voting for that. And it does, the Asian American focus doesn't hurt it at this point either. After Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny, like people like to laugh.
Yeah.
That's legitimately funny instead of hybrid funny.
Yeah.
And for Best Actress in a Movie Limited, Gold Derby has Ali Wong winning for Beef. I actually am sticking with Jessica Chastain. She's the big movie star. She's the Oscar winner. She has the acclaim. And I mean, she was that limited series way more than Michael Shannon was on his side. So that's why I'm sticking with Jessica. I could be wrong. I realize that Beef could sweep every category, but I think I'm going to stick with Jessica for now. Daniel, what about you?
I've got Ali Wong. I feel like George and Tammy. I feel like if it weren't for that SAG win, I don't know that Jessica Chastain would look as strong. And remember, who also won a SAG award was Sam Elliott for 1880. Might even have the title on 1883, whichever year that show took place in. Who wasn't an Emmy nominee at all. So it's not necessarily reflective of who's strongest here. The SAG Awards, and Beef wasn't eligible because it hadn't aired yet for these SAG Awards. So I think it's Ali Wong. I think Beef wins pretty big, with limited series, and I think it's going to take. I have it taking 5 on Emmy, the primetime telecast.
Denton.
I have Ali right now. I do think Jessica could win. I had just published an article recently about how you can win Best Actress without that Best Limited Series, which she's missing. George and Tammy was not nominated, but that's happened in recent history with other actresses like Regina King and Laura Linney. So she's not completely out of it by missing out on that Limited Series nomination. Showtime hasn't had great success in recent years at the Emmys.
Not since Homeland.
Right. So I talked earlier about like how the Emmy voters have 3 channels or streamers, and it seems like Netflix is definitely one of them. And I think Ali is the top contender here. If I was a voter, I would be voting for Dominique Fishback, and I have her in 3rd place because she would be my Hope Diction. I loved her in Swarm.
And Ray, Jessica versus Ali.
I'm on Team Ali, like Daniel and Denton. She was, it was really a complex, nuanced performance where she was funny, but she had moments where she made you nervous. It was just a fully realized performance for me. And Jessica, yes, Oscar winner. But she is pretty much George and Tammy, and I'm not sure that's enough to put her over the top. I also liked Riley Keough a lot, but I don't think Daisy Jones and the Six doesn't have enough juice to put Riley over the top.
Well, I made a switch today in Movie Limited Actor. I've been predicting Evan Peters the whole time, but based on what we were saying earlier, are people going to vote for this role? I mean, he does a fantastic job playing him, don't get me wrong, but I just don't know. There's this icky factor to it. And so I switched to Stephen Yeun for Beef. Is that who Gold Derby is picking? Let me check. Oh no, Gold Derby still has Evan Peters out front. So we'll see if that changes later. Who wants to go first on this one?
I have Stephen Yeun winning as well. And Gold Derby, I mean, we have some serious Evan Peters stands at this website. So I'm not surprised.
I'm one of them.
that we're predicting him to still win. Although, I mean, without Stephen Yeun, I would be predicting him. So, I mean, how dark and how off-putting is it? I don't know. Like, it was still an amazing performance. And I also want to push back on you for saying Jessica Chastain was George and Tammy. Michael Shannon was amazing in that show. And just as deserving as she is for recognition. If I was voting, I would actually vote for Michael Shannon. I thought he was incredible in George and Tammy and what he was able to pull off. But I'm predicting Stephen Yeun for Beef.
And Ray?
Um, I have Evan still, even though I made my speech about the ick factor as well. And I have Stephen Yeun third, but I'm going to be going back and forth on this. This is a category that I think it's kind of loaded, and because I think Daniel Radcliffe has a chance too. Um, and and if we're looking at maybe there can be a kind of a sidelight story here in the wins for child stars winning when they were all grown up. Maybe you could have Tyler James Williams, Daniel Radcliffe, and Kieran Culkin if they all win. There's your story. Uh, but yeah, I'm back and forth, between Evan, Daniel, and Stephen Yeun. But whenever I think of Beef, it's true. When I think of that show and I think of that performance, if a different actor in that role, and it's not nearly as good a limited series, that's sort of my test. My test is, can I imagine a different actor in that role? I sort of could with Ali Wong, but I absolutely could not with Stephen Yeun.
Y'all are convincing me that, if I'm predicting Beef for series and actor, I need to switch to Ali Wong. So I might make that switch after this slugfest is over. Daniel, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I've got Stephen Yeun. I think he and Ali are a package deal. I feel like if voters are checking off Beef, they're checking off the two leads. Evan Peters does have a shot for Dahmer. Like on paper, they liked both in the limited series just as much. They both got 13 nominations, I believe. But I mean, the controversy around Monster, the fact that the victims' families didn't even want it to be made, so it feels like in Evan Peters' acceptance speeches up to this point, it feels like he's almost apologizing for having played the role. It's like, I hope this role did some good. I hope, so he might not have to worry about that at the Emmys.
Supporting actor in a movie limited series all season long, Paul Walter Hauser has remained out front for Blackbird. He won a lot of the precursor awards, and this could be the one and only Blackbird win at the Emmys. And look, an acting award is a good trophy to have. So if it only wins one, I mean, why not this one? Does anyone have anyone other than Paul? I know at Gold Derby, Richard Jenkins is in second, but he's way down in second.
I have Richard Jenkins.
Oh, you do? Okay, tell us why. Because he's the heart of Monster.
He's the heart of the show. I mean, him and Niecy Nash. I think that's where Dahmer's going to get their trophies for me, as I have him and Niecy in the category we'll talk about next. But I mean, it's just such a heart-wrenching performance to see what a father of a serial killer goes through in life. I mean, what he's able to do is unlike anything else that I've seen this season. And Paul Walter Hauser has swept through, but that show seems so long ago now. Monster seems like long enough ago, but I mean, Blackbird we've been talking about for forever. So I don't know if the momentum can just keep going long enough for him to finally win the Emmy. It's hard when the Emmy is the last trophy you need to get after sweeping the whole award season. It's better if it's first and then and then things trail along. But I have Richard Jenkins right now.
Daniel.
This is a tough one. I have Paul Walter Hauser, which sort of is counterintuitive to me because the series underperformed significantly. It only got 4 nominations and 3 of them are for acting. But so he kind of reminds me of Ben Whishaw in A Very English Scandal, where that series also didn't do as well as it looked like it might, but he still pulled it out and won Best Supporting Actor for it. But yeah, I do think this race is closer than it would have been had Blackbird done better. So I do have Richard Jenkins in second. They liked Monster enough to nominate it multiple times. He's a past Emmy winner for Olive Kitteridge. He's beloved. And then I've got Murray Bartlett in third. He just won this last year. There's like this halo around Murray Bartlett right now in his career that I feel like a lot of people just have goodwill for him. So yeah, I think this is closer than it looked before nominations.
And Ray, you know, Paul Walter Hauser plays a serial killer just like Evan Peters. We could have two serial killers win.
As we should. No. Go serial killers. No, I have Paul Walter Hauser winning, but I'm not at all confident in that. And I too loved Richard Jenkins in the show. And I feel like I know Beef is already going to win enough probably elsewhere, but I thought Young Mazzino was terrific. And I have him third right now. Joseph Lee, I ironically thought was maybe the weakest link in that show. I didn't necessarily love his performance nearly as much as I love the others. But at the top, yeah, I still have Paul. I'm not sure if the fact that this seemed to have happened in 2019, the show is going to impact it. But we'll see. I'll be switching back and forth a lot. But of course, the next category I wanted to get a jump on here, supporting actress in movie limited, because I know how much you despise Niecy Nash, Marcus. and you
Liar.
just, can you just leave the woman alone? My God, she tried her best.
I was actually, as you were speaking, I was thinking, okay, how am I going to start this one? I'm going to start this one by saying, hands down, the one speech that will bring me the most joy on Emmy night is going to be Niecy Nash Betts. I cannot wait for it. I'm praying to the Emmy gods that it happens.
I think it's going to. I feel like she's got a great shot. The only one that I feel like has a realistic chance of an upset is Claire Danes, just because she's Claire Danes and she always seems to win when she's nominated. But she also, she had a great supporting role in Fleischman, and Fleischman got a decent number of nominations, but I don't feel like there's the love for that project, enough of love for that project and for her in it, for her to upset Niecy. And Niecy, she is so good. When you think back on watching that show, it's just so moving and chilling. She really transformed herself into that character. And that is, I just say, as long as Merritt Weaver doesn't win, do you remember her acceptance speech when she won was it for Nurse Jackie?
Nurse Jackie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. When she went, thank you, and then walked off. I mean,
I loved that. That's one of my favorite acceptance speeches because I love the genuine moments. Like, as someone who suffers from social anxiety, I feel like if I won an Emmy, I would get up on stage and look out in the crowd and do exactly the same thing. So I was so fond of her at that moment.
So I take it back. That is the Daniel Montgomery Memorial Award.
I don't think Merritt Weaver likes this whole competition aspect of the industry. I think she loves acting and she loves her fellow actors, but she just does not like, pitting people against one another at award shows.
But it's so much
she's allowed to think that. It's fun for us. We get paid to do it. Who else hasn't spoken on this? The Niecy Nash category.
I haven't, but Niecy Nash Betts, I have her winning, and I agree with Ray. The only possible upset is Claire Danes, and Fleischman is in trouble to better than I thought it would overall as a series in terms of nominations, getting nominated for Best Limited Series. But this is another category where there's enough to worry about in other categories. I'm not going to worry about Niecy Nash Betts. She's staying on top.
Daniel?
Yeah, I've got Niecy Nash Betts winning this. As much of the ick factor as Monster potentially has, I don't think any of that rubs off on her. I think especially the role she plays is one of the most sympathetic on the series. But yeah, this is a two-way race. It's her and Claire Danes. I really can't see anyone else really having a realistic shot at this. And Claire Danes has a better shot than I thought she would, just because, like Denton said, I did not expect Fleischman to do as well as it did across the board. So I really do think this is a two-way race, a close one, but I'm going to give Niecy Nash the edge.
Have
And
you
she
seen
has like a full episode, like dedicated to her character. So she's like the lead of
It's true.
when she's submitting an episode, you can see her as a lead through portions of the series, depending on what episode you're watching. So she has that advantage over someone like Maria Bello, who gets cut in half in an elevator, and she's got very limited scenes.
Yeah, it's true. Claire has episode 7, I think it is. That's really all her. But have you seen Taffy Broadus Ackner? You know, the woman whose novel Fleischman is based on, and she was the writer and showrunner also for the show. Interviews with her, she's talking about, oh my, I just couldn't believe the things that I wrote the actors were saying. You know, she's like, it was like an out of body experience. It was so cute.
Well, let's end by each of us saying what award would make us the happiest, which person winning. Mine, obviously, I just said it. Ray, who would make you the happiest on Emmy night to get up there and accept their trophy?
Well, even though I don't have him winning right now, if James Marsden were to win,
Yeah,
that would make my life. It would show that somebody who has who basically is improving his way through a very difficult, deceptively hard role over a period of weeks, was able to come through and win in a category where you're not supposed to be able to win doing that. You know, what he did was completely unscripted. It would be hope for the improvisational actors of the world. And he just seems like I've interviewed him. He's an incredibly sweet guy too. So he deserves it, and it would make me happy.
Daniel, who would be your happiest?
And there are 3 chances, so there's a decent chance it'll happen. Pedro Pascal, whichever one or ones he happens to win for. I've really just enjoyed, like, I spend too much time on social media, and Pedro Pascal is like the internet's daddy this year, and it's been such a delight watching him just have this moment of popularity, and the way he's embraced it too. He's been very game about this career moment that he's been having. And that character on Last of Us is so dark, and considering that he's been this much fun to follow this past year is it's just been a delight. So I'd love to see him give a speech.
And Denton.
Dominic Fishback for Swarm. It was one of my favorite performances of the year, maybe my favorite performance of the year. And she was so much fun to speak to when I was able to. And just for sentimental purposes, Christina Applegate, if that happened, if she can attend. I mean, we don't know if she will even be there whenever they are. So, but if she was somehow there and she was able to accept the award, that would be a pretty powerful moment.
Well, thank you everyone for watching our 2023 Emmy Slugfest. We'll see you in 2025 when the Emmy ceremony finally takes place.